Good evening. Good evening. It's day 5 of the 12 Days of Content Sharing Challenge. My name is Naeem, joining you again on a cold and not so wet actually today. It was a little bit cold though today on a Sunday. And today, I guess it could have been really easy for me to just say, do you know what, I'll just skip today. But I set myself a challenge, 12 days, and I'm going to go through it. And that sort of inspired me. That little thinking that I had over the last hour just inspired me as to what to talk about today. It's tough out there at the moment, isn't it? It's been a tough year. There's a lot going on. Obviously, COVID, the hospitality business, lots of businesses suffered. We've had the sad news, George Floyd earlier in the year. So much has happened this year. It has been tough out there at the moment. And it could be, I don't know, it could be another 3 months, 6 months, a year, I don't know. But it could be that this difficult times is not, it's not gone, come next year, come 2021. Hopefully 2021 will be a better year for us than this year gone. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that everything's going to be better come January the 1st. And we have to think about how we're going to do things differently. We're going to have to think about what changes do we need to make in ourselves and our businesses in order to not fall, not struggle through what a lot of people have struggled through this year. How are we going to get around that? What are we going to change? Because this quote from Rocky, which was in his one of his recent films, Rocky Balboa, when he's talking to his son, and he talks about the fact that it's not about how hard you can hit, but it's about how many can you take and keep moving forward. And I thought it was really poignant. I thought it was a really good quote. We're going to get knocks in life. We're going to get knocks in business. And I'm predominantly, talking about business here. We're going to get a lot of knocks in business. And it's about how many of those knocks we can take, how many we can, bounce off the chin, how we can get to go again. I mean, we need to know when it's not the right time to continue. We need to know when it's a time to change things. But at the same time, we also need to be able to take those punches and roll with the punches and move forward. And we're seeing a lot of that at the moment. The news yesterday that London's going into tier 4 is very upsetting for a lot of people, not just people in London, but across the country, because the talk on all the news today is about a different strain of the virus. So some people were hoping that this is going to be over, but it might not be over, and we've got to think about what we're going to do. And can the difference between winning and losing be not quitting? Yeah, of course it can. If you've worked really hard and you've built your brand up to here and you're starting to make great progress and you quit, maybe you have to go a little bit further to really start making those big wins that you're looking for. So sometimes you've got to be able to just keep going, and when things are tough, you've got to think about what can I do in the short term? What do I need to do in the short term? Set yourself, and this is why goal setting is so important. Setting targets is so important. And instead of thinking just for a year ahead, you've got to be thinking short-term goals. What I'm going to try and do in the next week, in the next month, in the next couple of months. When you're trying to climb Everest, you climb it one step at a time. You don't try and jump straight to the top. It's the same thing. We are having such a difficult time out there at the moment that we've got to try and just keep going, just keep working on those little things. So if you're sitting there thinking, what could you be working on? This is a quote. I love this quote because it's something which I think is so simple to understand, and it can apply to everyone. Think about how you can take your brand to the next level. People talk about this all the time, but how can I take my brand to the next level? How can I raise my standard up? How can I raise my standard to a level that, I stand out from other people? And how can I raise my standard to the level that other people, other businesses are going to appear average and mediocre, whilst my standard, my business is going to be better? Because it's not just about your mindset. Okay. Difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations. I quote this so many times, I just think it's nonsense. It's not just about working harder and harder and harder. Who works harder than a guy who works in a mine 10, 12 hours a day, or a labourer working on a building site. Who works harder than that? That guy or that girl puts in their blood, sweat and tears into their business. It's about being able to understand a little bit where you're going, having a goal, a plan, having a path to get from your current position to where you want to go, and you've got to have those little steps on how you're going to get there. So it's not just about telling yourself to get your mindset right, work harder, work harder, work harder. If you're working 60 hours a week already, working another 5 or 10 hours, it's only going to make a small difference, isn't it? It's not a numbers game. People talk a lot about this, the more leads I put into the top, the more sales get out the bottom. It's not just a numbers game, because if what you're doing and saying isn't working, and if you're, a saying I hate is, make some noise, make more noise. I hate that, because if all you're doing is shouting and your audience or your customers are not listening because I think you're talking nonsense or it's not relevant to them, the more you shout, the less they're going to listen. They're just going to switch you off. They're going to change the channel completely. So I don't think it's a numbers game. And it's not a price game either. People talk about price. Oh, if we just raise our prices a bit, what will happen is we'll filter ourselves away from the rest of the competition. Well, if you raise your price without doing anything different to your service or your products, all you're doing now is giving the same products and services just more expensive. And similarly, if you lower your prices, if you think, right, I'll just make myself a little bit cheaper and then I can compete. What happens when everyone else lowers their prices? Well, what you can do, lower your prices again. Because all that's happening there is every time you're lowering your prices, you're making less profit. And that is just very simply and clearly, a race to making no money at all. So if you're sitting there thinking, what can I do? What can I do over the next couple of weeks whilst we're in this downtime? My advice is really simple. Think about a particular customer that you want to work with. Think about a target customer and think, what can I do to be amazing for that particular customer? What do they like? What do they see? What do they think? What do they want? And when you really start thinking about, one person or one type of customer, it starts making things very clear. You sort of get rid of all the stuff around the outside and you start focusing particularly on that customer. And what happens then is by focusing on that customer, you start doing all the things which are relevant to that customer, and that customer represents your target customer. And what then starts happening is that customer starts saying, oh, do you know what? I'm going to buy from this person only because this person is doing stuff exactly which is right for me. And when you're focusing on nobody, when you're talking to everybody, you're focusing on nobody, right? And when you're focusing on somebody, then you can be amazing for that person. And then that's how I think you can always get ahead, build your business, tweak your business and service around a particular customer that you want to attract and work with. It's as simple as that. You already know this. You know your customers. You know your business. All we've got to try and do is get rid of all the collateral. Don't be afraid to lose some people who aren't in your target audience, and start focusing on and working with the customers who are the ones you want to work with. And once you start being amazing for them, you'll find that not only will they buy from you, they'll recommend you to all their friends and family. So today was day 5 of the 12 days of content sharing challenge, hashtag 12DSC. Hope you enjoyed it. Got another episode tomorrow about the same sort of time. Look forward to seeing you then.